Call the meeting to order. I always like to sit so I can look at the clock, but I don't sit so I can actually read the clock. In the car, so it doesn't- Your meetings? So Alan chooses them. Okay, do I need to print off any more agendas?
That's a perfect amount. I think that's the perfect amount.
Okay. Cool. Do we have a form? Yes. Put those little in. One. Okay, it's a couple minutes past 9:30 and I think we're all settled in, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And first thing, let's just have a moment of silence to get our thoughts together. Okey doke. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda, which everybody should have. Are there any additions or deletions or corrections to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as written. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, hopefully everyone had a chance to read over the minutes from our October meeting. Are there any additions, corrections? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve them as read. Okay, all in favor? Okay, we have no members of the public present. If anybody shows up, I'll make a moment, at the end, toward the end of the meeting for any public comments. Reports. I think Daniel is being the Public Works Director in absentia today. You have anything to report?
Good luck with that. And no, no reports.
Okay, well, I do have a question because I forgot to ask you the other day. After all the wind and everything we had, did we have much damage or trees down? We lost power. Well, I did too.
You did lose power.
Yeah.
Gotcha. At the very bottom. Yeah, I cleaned that up yesterday and I was thinking, that was since the last windstorm and the last couple of windy winter nights here, no major issues. We have had some small stuff come down, the one at the end of Graybeard, and there's another tree leaning on a service just off of Assembly, which we're not responsible for, but
Okay,
any major stuff was all good. We had
Okay.
no major problems.
okay, good, yeah.
Yeah, they said it was from being 3 or 4 hours.
Well, obviously there was something else down at our end of town because we lost it Sunday night in the middle of the night, in the middle of the wind for 2 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised.
Okey doke. Do you have anything, Alex?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have anything. Surprise, surprise. It's not covered later on, but we've been working on, almost done with Tree City USA, and I think that's pretty much it for right now. Okay. I had no new business. Did anybody come up with anything? Okay. Old business. First one on there is our terms of office for our members at large. And I know I contacted Maggie and Brad, and we discussed this at last month's meeting. We need to put out, I'd like for Alice to do an announcement at the next town council meeting that the tree board terms are going to expire at the end of January. There's going to be at least one opening. I am not planning to ask for reappointment. And I think if anybody is interested, I don't think the work's going to be as intense as it has been over the last 5-6 years. Just because of the way everything's starting to move and things are falling in place. So we need to get that information out. Maybe we can put it in a Montreat Minute as well. If you need me to write something, I'm happy to do it. And I think Alex and I discussed how we're going to get terms staggered. So at the end of the January meeting, our terms are officially up. And if you would like to go back on again, you need to reapply. I think we've gone through this at least once.
So there are actually a number of boards. There are a number of vacancies coming up on different boards across. So we're going to start advertising a call for volunteers sooner rather than later.
Great.
And that includes the tree board.
Okay, yeah. Well, I figure if people are able to put in an appointment, they can get appointed in January, which is when all the terms, which our terms expire.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's thought process, but it's now in your capable hands. But thanks a lot, Ethan.
So I'm wondering if there is a thought about how that might be handled. I agree that not having all board members go away at the same time is a good idea. It's kind of surprising actually that we don't have that at this point. So
Yeah.
is there a plan, an idea about how to make the transition?
Let me do it. Yeah. Alex and I talked that we probably need to advertise or let people know we can, there'd be an appointment for 1 year, an appointment for 2 years, and a third appointment would be for the full term. And then at the end of the first year, opportunity for appointments would be open again, and that would be for a full 3-year term. And same thing after 2 years. The second year appointment would be only for 2 years. They could re-up for a full 3 years. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of a phase in the whole thing. That makes
Correct.
sense.
Yeah. That's about the only way I think we can do it, since it was not written into the rules of procedure for the tree board, which means after those appointments, we'll just have to revise the rules of procedure to include, huh?
The other thing that I think is, needs some attention or explanation is election of officers. Oh, is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read the rules of procedure, and I remember knowing that as the land care chair, I automatically just became a member of the tree board.
Correct.
And yet there are only 2 at large at this time. And then we have all of a sudden 1 meeting, we elect officers. I think there should be some kind of procedure as to how officers. I would never be chair of the tree board or secretary. And so I don't know if there's no nomination or I just think that officers are very important, and that's the one that's going to carry it. And we want to have qualified people. I mean, people that have time. Those who volunteer and say they'd like to be on the tree board, they could come to meetings and have no written, time responsibilities.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. because there's two positions that are automatically on the board, and that's the commissioner for the environment and the land care chair. And I know Alice is going to be leaving at the end of December. So,
And sometime a commissioner has been a president of the land care too. So
And-
I
and
think
chair
I
of
think
tree
we need
board.
to know that the liaison of commissioners have really heavy commitment because it's the best source of information for communication. If the president of the tree, of any
yeah.
board, town board, but if it's a one-day thing without asking someone to be present, they could be nominated and all of a sudden they're elected.
Yeah, well, hopefully there's going to be some continuity in reappointment. Bad news is they know what they're in for.
You maybe don't want to have people volunteering if they think they're going to come and be elected president.
That's right. No. No, I think the only time a newbie was elected chair was the very first year, the organizational year of the board. So,
Well, you served 5 years.
yeah.
Do you want to limit the terms for the officers or for the large?
Yeah, there should be limited term.
I mean, that's a lot to think about, because I think this is a very important,
Yeah.
major.
Well, and yeah, and I think like I told several of you in emails that I think the intensity, I think, of the work of the board is slacking off some. It's not slacking off, but it's decreasing because it needs to take a different focus. Yeah. Okay. Okay, quotes for inventory update.
I don't have quotes. I'm sorry. I intended to get that done Friday and I did not have the time to do that. So
Okay.
I do not have quotes.
Okay, and I have contacted Andy Pleninger with the state forestry, North Carolina Forest Service, and tried to find out, asking what is happening as far as the Forest Service being able to use helping with an inventory in a town as part of their training is what we had talked about in the fall. I think with the state budget finally being passed, I need to find out what's going on. I have not heard back from him yet. I actually did that yesterday afternoon, so I'm not surprised. Okay, our Tree City USA application is well underway. I had a good meeting with Alex on Friday. We got a lot of figures, figured out dollar figures we needed, did a rough plan that we have to do for the state and the budget financial worksheet we also have to do for the state. So those are pretty much filled in. One of the main things I still need are hours, volunteer hours from everybody. And I'm going to say I need them by tomorrow because I'm going to try and get everything finished up this weekend. But we cannot submit it or get the signature form for the mayor until we have completed the application. So I want to do that next Monday or Tuesday. So assistance would be great. Does anybody have any questions about our application? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get enough together for a growth award this year. I emailed Bill Seam
What was that for what? Growth?
growth award.
What is that?
That's extra points for doing extra good. It's like 2 gold stars. So,
How do you get it?
well, you have to do extra things that are worth so many points. It's like when Daniel got his arborist training that was worth so many points. Each year now, new tree board members will be worth 1 point. Any additions in the inventories, when we get the inventories done, those are worth points. All sorts of stuff. There's a long list. They publish a list. They revise it every 5-10 years. So I was hoping we could use the Chestnut Foundation event, but obviously that's not going to work. I'm sure we're the only ones who had issues with that. Not with Chestnut, but with COVID stuff. So there are a lot of things. I think we're, if we work hard, if the board works hard, we can still get another growth award next year. But I have not heard back from Bill on the stream team. And are they in town? Are they in town? Do you know?
I'm not aware. Did you leave a message?
I emailed him.
Well, I do know that Bill did not participate this past summer in the chemical thing,
Yeah.
the testing of the swimming hole. And it had been the year before that he did the major. I mean, he's still working on the fact he's preparing more information for the land care because that's still our major project. Platte Creek, a treasure and responsibility.
Right.
I'd be happy to try to, I mean, I'll email him again, but I've had phone calls. I mean, he returns my calls that I had last week. and I
Okay.
tried this Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, I emailed him last week. So
What do you need from him on hours? Is that what you're asking?
no,
Oh.
I'm asking for a review of stream team to see if it's applicable for a growth award.
Well, it's just been this past, I don't know if it's been, all the effort that he put in was from 2020
Okay.
and
Okay, doke.
2021 is this past summer of Memorial Day through Labor Day of testing weekly.
Okay. Well, I think I haven't heard from him, so I figure it's not going to work. But I thought I'd at least try.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's underway and we'll get that in by December 1. So the next item is our chestnut planting update. And Daniel and Brad, you are up.
Yeah. Actually, it's at this point, it's probably mostly Daniel. But progress is being made. Maybe not as fast as we hoped, but it is happening. So, yeah, Daniel, you were telling me some stuff before the meeting. So would you let us know what your plans are and also.
Sure. So earlier in the month, Barry, Brad, and I took a little time to view some areas that we thought were good to place some of these trees, which I'm looking forward to getting in the ground, hopefully early next week. I talked with Jason. We've gotten the go-ahead from MRA to place some of the trees around the property, that some of the properties that they own. We did have one, sorry, I've got a string that's bothering me. We did have one at the top of the hill that didn't make it. So, that's one of the things when we get these, we get these little saplings, these little seedlings, they're never guaranteed to make it. And luckily, I think we're able to get another one. But what we're going to do is go ahead and take one of the ones that we have potted up that Ann so graciously did, put one at the top of the hill. We've got an area on Virginia, I think that could take 2 or possibly 3 in that area. Probably going to be 2 on the Virginia Greenway site that we've been doing some of our ivy work around. And then Barry and I had talked about putting one behind our shop, which I think would be a really neat place to have one. So we can kind of keep an eye on it and baby it. But Jason, we did have, I think, possibly 2 of our seedlings that are in the pots didn't make it. That's a possibility. So with the remainder of the trees that we have, we're going to take 4, and I think Jason and MRA are going to take, 2 or 3, possibly 4 if we have them. We're going to put one near Anderson Auditorium parking lot, and possibly one right behind the Rangers shack. And then Jason and I were going to kind of come up with another location for that third one, which won't be too hard. The one right there right below the dam, I think it did the best out of any of them for some odd reason, but you know,
And it survived the youth of the summer.
yeah, absolutely. It got, what is that spike ball? I mean, those guys are just playing spike ball right on top of our chestnuts. So, but I think next week's weather looks good. Early next week's mid 50s. If we're lucky, we might see some upper 50s, and it looks only about the upper 30s to mid 40s for lows. So I'm pretty optimistic about getting those plants in the ground next week, and just keeping on, taking care of them and making sure they're doing well.
Super.
Who's doing the maps of the locations for the public to have?
Actually, I'm glad you said that. After we're done with our meeting, I've got some maps that Barry got ready for Brad. And I don't know, I think there's 2 of each. It's a town map and a tree board reference map. And so we're going to go pick those up directly after the meeting and try to get those to Brad and to Ann. And that way we can start hashing out some of these locations. I believe Barry picked up a little handheld GPS system, so we can mark these coordinates and keep up with each individual tree.
I think he got 3 units.
I think so.
How many total trees?
Definitely 7, maybe 8. It's a little hard to tell right now. They lost their leaves early.
How is the one at the top of Shenandoah?
As of toward the end of fall, it late midsummer it had leafed out. And we're ever so patiently waiting for spring to see if it's going to leaf back out for us. It does look like it is in some decline. As a matter of fact, as you know, we thought it was just as dead as a doornail.
Yeah.
So we were happy to see that tree leaf out. And Jason seems to think he knows some locations of some other chestnuts. So I'd be, maybe when we get a little warmer weather toward the end of winter time, Barry and I and Brad here would love to take a walk with him and see if these locations aren't too far from the center of town.
Yeah.
But
Isn't this the time of year when the nuts fall?
yeah, they should be dropping. And I would say that, we could definitely try to get in the woods with Jason sometime and see if we could collect some as well.
Now, the map for the public that we're going to use on the exhibit is, I'm still working on that and touch base with Daniel to see about where the trees are going to be, because that does not have to be done before Tree City goes in. So that I'm aiming that one hopefully at the first of the year, and I have somebody who's going to help me actually create the map, somebody who knows what they're doing, instead of just scanning and printing and adding more. When you guys put the trees in, will you get some pictures, please?
I sure will.
Great, thanks.
And so now that we're actually getting more in the ground, I'm going to work on a way to log what we have and put all the relevant information where they're at, and it could also be used for the periodic checkup, how they're doing kind of thing. I'm going to try to work out a format that we can use for that and have that available for use of everyone who needs it. Yeah, I've been looking forward to seeing the maps Barry said he's going to get. They definitely want GPS location, so we can know where they are. Something I wanted to mention, one thing that's come up in the conversation with the Chestnut Foundation people is that, well, 2 things. I think I mentioned it last month that they would like people to be going around the valley and finding trees. Even the ones that grow up from stumps, maybe even particularly those, because they need to find out where the sources of the natural DNA is in the area, and tree from a stump is a good source for that. So we want to be finding those, locating those. Um,
Brad,
They,
don't they have an app you can use to help locate them? I thought I remember Jamie talking about an app and you can go in and record it for the Chestnut folks.
But there was a tree finder thing that you brought back.
No, this is something that they've
yeah,
produced.
I'm not clear on that, but I could certainly talk with her
Yeah, okay.
about that. Another thing that they're very interested in as the Chestnut Foundation plans move along is they are still looking for places to have small orchards, or maybe not even small orchards. I think I kind of understood that, maybe an acre is a good size for the sort of thing they want to do, where it's kind of a test orchard where trees can be planted and do they survive or not, that kind of thing, and a whole bunch of trees at once. So it's more of a scientific, by the numbers kind of approach to things. And looking at maps with Barry the other day, he was pointing out some locations that are town properties here and there that have been bought back or donated to the town that don't have a particular use at this time. And I want to look with Barry or whoever and try to locate if there are any of those properties that would be suitable for that sort of orchard thing. And I think it'd be really cool if we could have a site, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be close to a road, really, but just a site that could be used for that sort of purpose. And I think it would give us an activity going on that volunteers could relate to, and that Chestnut Foundation people would appreciate. So that's something that I'd like to be pursuing.
It's Dottie that, I
Yeah.
think the coordination with the college is major with this.
But, and I think he's in the loop, I do believe, isn't
There's loops upon loops, and
he? Yeah.
and how we coordinate these is still a big question mark for me, because when I was talking to Jason the other day, not Jason, Josh, he was talking about having in conversation with Chestnut Foundation on behalf of college, and they're talking about putting in orchard stuff down in the Black Mountain campus. So I think it's fine, but it takes it out of the realm of what we have involvement in. So I'm not, and because their focus seems to be on the Black Mountain campus at this point, I'm not sure how much buy-in we're going to have from Josh and the college at this point.
Yeah.
He gets a movement going. Yeah. Well, I've heard that they're talking about putting another orchard down there with this variety that they've done now. And it was the follow-up from the 2009 trees. I think it was 2009 that Brian Joyce put in that triggered the story on WLOS, because the same gentleman who came out and taped also did the initial planting, and they were doing a follow-up. And there are actually two locations down there. Dottie showed me both of them. In one of the locations, it had a tree in there that had nice big fruit on it. We don't know if anything was in the husk, but it was down there. So I'll be curious. Let me know what's going on with the college and if they're able to do that too, Brad. I think it'd be-
Brad said that there was space that the town could have something. There was plenty.
That's
Well,
what
I
he
don't
was-
know for a fact that there is.
Well, this brings up open, whatever you call it. open space.
Yeah,
Thing, this map, the clarification, I think for everyone, I think beginning in January, I'd like to see those maps, that you have that giant one up.
well, I know
Because I
Barry,
think they're very,
So let
everybody
me-
gets very confused about what, who owns what and
well, Barry was getting some big maps made. One of them was a Bing map and the other was the map that David Curry did showing us the rights of way in town. And I think, aren't those the two that he's getting done? And
Yes,
he was
ma'am.
using a G, do you guys have a GPS map for water?
I'm not positive. I know that, I'm not sure about the GPS, but it was the big, the
Yeah.
Montreat. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I gave a couple maps to Barry.
Yeah, Barry's got them hanging on his wall, and we basically just sized them down to where you could take them with you wherever you wanted to go, so they're not so big. But they do show areas in town that the town is supposed to own. But we'd have to look into further into that, I would assume. So
I think I have the small ones, but you can't even read the shades of, I mean, it's just.
yeah, these are about 24 by 18 by 24, something like that, something that
So-
you could still use.
And I think there's one that's 24 by 36.
Yeah,
So-
we've got a very large one. It's like 44 by 28 or 32 or something. It's a really big one.
So, yeah, I mean, all of the maps, as far as I know, are scalable. And, I've had the difficulty of not being able to find maps. I go onto the website and there's no, breadcrumb trail or whatever to lead me to the maps that I'm looking for.
What website, the town?
Did
Yeah,
you
the
find the
town.
one in the tree guide? There's one in the tree guide.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, and what's in the Get Free Guide is not really scalable.
Yeah, that's one of them that's available.
So the point is getting with the electronic versions of maps that could be scalable. Because I was going to do what Barry's going to do now. I was trying to find maps that I could use for that kind of purpose. And I'd really like to work on that. I think what I need is a map tutorial from whoever can give that to me, so we can identify the ones that are good potential for our kinds of needs, and then figure out how to get them in size. Because my idea would be to have maps that are large enough that a group could look at, but also have the electronic version so we can put it on a screen if we want to. If we want to have some tools that we can really use for this.
Well, when I got a map of Montreat for that reason about 8 years ago, David Curry sent that on his computer to the Black Mountain, and they print those there. They have capabilities that I don't know if y'all have here.
Yeah, we actually
You
have.
probably do now with. the
Yeah, we
new-
put them on a flash drive, and I took them to Precision, and then
Okay, oh, okay,
they printed them on cardstock and laminated them, and
yeah, perfect.
hopefully they're going to turn out really nicely. And still, again, that the largest map is the size of this table. It's really easy to read and look at. But hopefully these are still big enough, but yet small enough to take with you and be out in the field with. But I do like being able to take your computer and plug them in a flash drive, and
Yeah, the technology of getting them set up is easily accessible.
Sure.
Now. It's what I'm looking for is the basic maps that could be usable and which ones would be suitable for the kind of more precise locations things that I think we need for the Chestnut thing. And is it a drawing that somebody's done, or is it an overlay on a topographical map? Those are the kinds of questions that I have as well. So I'll try to. Should I connect with Barry about that, or?
I would say so. I would say Barry's going to be the go-to guy to not put any more on Alex's plate than what he wants.
So the tree board map is on the town website under the button that says maps at the top of the page, as well as some other like zoning maps and things like that. But the tree board study map that David Curry put together is available on the website and it is scalable.
Oh,
Okay.
well, good. I'm glad we're
I've,
going
I've,
to
I've
get,
seen that. Maybe it's got more in it than I've realized, but I'll look at it again.
And I'll get with Barry and make sure that we get in touch with you and Ann and see what we can come up with as far as any other maps that would be usable for us out in the field.
great. Alrighty. Anything else on our planning? And then you and Daniel and Brad will keep me posted as to what, when and where. So, okey doke. The Chestnut exhibit is in the works. I'm aiming on that one for the one for the lobby here for the first of the year. And I'm going with first of the year being January, February, or March. I've got to get up with Dottie and find out what her schedule is with the students and getting their research and then translating it into exhibitable materials. Planting plan. And once again, is there anything else? People have any questions or whatever on the exhibits?
Well, you're having one for the plant sale in April. I'm, working with Brad, but do you designate as a town Arbor Day? Or does a state or Earth Day, Earth Day is universal.
That's a different thing. Arbor Day, generally, we have celebrated the town Arbor Day with a native plant sale. And I've always seen it as native plant sale / Arbor Day celebration. We were going to try and do an additional Arbor Day
We had to
celebration
cancel.
up for September. But that obviously it didn't work out, but I think, yeah, we'll have something for the Arbor Day celebration.
Okay, so who's going to be in charge of that from the town of the Arbor Day? Is that going to be you, Ann, as a
Well,
subcommittee?
it's going to be kind of up to the new board. If they'll let me, I'll do it. And I'm volunteering to do that.
Yeah, good.
So
We need to have that in the printing stages of.
you, oh, yeah. No,
Well, as you said, we for 2021, we did have a declared Arbor Day in September, and although we ended up not doing a celebration,
Yeah.
it was still Arbor Day.
We-
And I think it read at the board or something like that, the declaration.
yes. And
Um,
that's what they had, that was required for TCUSA, is to have a signed proclamation. We didn't have to do a celebration.
My assumption has been that we would do Arbor Day in conjunction with the native plant sale in the spring. That, we'll just have to track on that, and as that comes together, we'll have to take the step of getting a declaration made. And put it in-
And I think, yeah, we'll get that done for the board. It'll be on the board agenda for the spring. I think that's how it usually do. Somebody on this board contacts the mayor and they get it drafted, or talk to Angie and they get one drafted. So,
That's proclaimed in on April 20th.
yes. Did you what?
That's the date of the native plant sale, and it's proclaimed by the mayor that day.
Yes, yeah. And usually that date, we usually hold that date around the official Arbor Day date for North Carolina. They have different dates for various states, just because of climate, et cetera. So we usually hold it around the official Arbor Day date.
That's the spring date.
Pardon me?
That's the spring date.
April 23rd is when we're looking at, yeah.
But that's not what you're saying, the North Carolina state.
I don't know what North Carolina date's going to be. I haven't seen anything in the literature yet, so. Okay. Does anybody have anything on the planting plan? I know we talked, I think I gathered from the minutes and from my notes that we decided to do a two-prong plan one for the public and one for the town itself, and be able to include the Chestnut project in that. Does anybody have anything, or are we just gonna worry about it next year?
We had talked about looking at the tree management guide for information about philosophy, was it?
Yes.
Anyway, I did some reading in the tree management guide with that in mind. And there weren't any statements that I found that really jumped out as, declaring that this is the general philosophy of this, but there's a good bit in there in terms of talking about purposes and various levels and things. So I think it is a worthwhile study to try to keep it consistent with what's gone in the past.
And I think it's one of those things. I think I remember when the board was first established, Ron Nally said there are two things that the board really needed to do, and he didn't know what order to do them in, either the planting plan for the town and a tree management guide for the town. So we were able to get the guide done, and with the inventory, I know that helps with that'll help with the planting. And I think we're in a better position now, having done the inventory over the small inventories we've been able to do, have helped us figure out where problem areas are. I think is that safe for me to say? Yeah. And where there's groves of problem trees, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
correct.
So
As
I,
far as my time here has been.
and I think that knowledge will help guide how the town needs to move forward and manage the trees. And I think we need to remember that just like the management guide, it's a fluid document. So it will need to be updated. We need to see where we are after 5 years or whatever, and update things, which of course is not going to take as much energy as creating it from the beginning. So
The most recent Chestnut chat, I think, is an interesting thing to view in relationship to this kind of question. It wasn't on chestnuts at all, and it wasn't about mountains at all. It was mostly about people working in northern Florida and doing restoration in that area, mostly of pines. And but it's professional people that they're working on restoring thousands of acres, big chunks of land, and how they go about doing that, and rehabilitating the land and getting things like this. It's an interesting thing, and if you're thinking in terms of how would that apply to our place here in Montreat, there are parallels. There are things that could be learned from it. So it would then be the November Chestnut chat. But if you're trying to think in terms of an area, which we have an area that needs to be, brought back into something resembling nature, I think that's a good thing to see. They're using fire quite a bit, and that's a big question. I think we need to think about is the use of fire to help manage forest. So, but that raises all kinds of questions and fears and et cetera. But they're doing it quite successfully in some of those areas. So I would recommend Chestnut Chat again.
What are the dates? Could you send those dates?
they usually send out an announcement, and I think I just forgot to get it forwarded to everybody this month.
They
I
do.
apologize.
If you go to the Chestnut Foundation website, and I think it's just on the front page there, you scroll down and eventually you find links for the Chestnut Chat,
Okay,
and you go to the Chestnut Chat page, and every one of them that they've done ends up on that page, and you can, and the top of the list is the most recent. It takes a couple of weeks usually for that to, for the most recent to get up there. So maybe that what I'm talking about is not there yet, but it will be
Oh, good.
probably by the end of the month, if it's not yet. So.
Okay, so we'll worry about that tomorrow. We'll do the planting plan. I think will be a good thing to focus on for the new year.
These things are inspirational. One of these days it's going to kind of click.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up?
I was not texting my husband. I was texting the Arbor Day for North Carolina. It's always the first Friday after March 15th. So it's just in 2022, it's March 18th.
Didn't hear you.
North Carolina Arbor Day is March 18th, 2022.
Okay, thank you.
It's always the first Friday after March 15th.
Oh, okay,
So you can look at the rest of the years for the,
okay.
but we would like to celebrate it on the
Yeah.
20th in April.
We're okay to celebrate it pretty much any time of the year.
That's when.
That's the whole point, to celebrate it. Yay.
That's,
yeah.
you said you were looking for North Carolina. That's
Okay, great. Thanks, Gracie. March 18, huh? Okay. All right.
always a Friday.
Yeah, and I think National Arbor Day must be the one around, because I know the WLOS story ran on April 30th, which was a National Arbor Day. So obviously I got my facts confused. Did you have something else, Brad?
It's losing, I'm losing it again. You mentioned that our agreement from last month to work to bifurcate and to have something for public and something that is something for general information and something more technical or specific for. Is the vision for that public thing, is it like a one page or, you know, a brief statement or a couple of pages that would be a
I
once over lightly?
honestly don't know at this point. I think a lot just depends on what the board feels the public needs to know. It doesn't have to be nearly as technical as what would be for the town itself. But I know Barry and Daniel and I worked on something last year, as if you're getting ready to plant a tree, what do we need to know? And it would just be a couple pages and just, you know, of information about what are invasives, what are good natives that grow here in the area. So I don't think it'll just be a single sheet, but it'll be something that probably can just be included in the management guide as for the public, as opposed to a more technical, including canopy, et cetera, that would be for the town itself. Some people want to see both. And it can easily be, I could see it be easily being a handout, working with land care for information for people who have moved into town, who want to know information here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking based on what we said last month, was something that could be a standalone handout, but also could be included with the maybe more technical and more complicated planning plan, but consistent with it, you know, so that.
Yes,
so that the
yes, good point, yeah.
So the suggestions for property owners would guide them in a sense in the direction that would be consistent with the larger plan.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of possibilities. So,
And that is what I think we discussed it with land care because of the brochure or information. I know the one thing you wanted to have in there was when the tree falls, what do you do?
correct.
And I've got those forms to to have for Angie to give to new property owners. But I think we're working toward even getting the public in the spring and summer the same information, because people maybe want to plant trees and
Yeah.
want to do this, and the coordination of that can be with the tree board and land care.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great relationship that's developed. So, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, our next meeting will be next year. This is the last meeting for 2021. So the next meeting will be Tuesday, January 25th, 2022, 9:30 here, barring any catastrophe. We could have a. Is that your birthday? Yay. Woo. That's right.
And 80 candles.
Yeah. We'll talk to the fire department about whether or not we can do that.
I'd like to commend the town, its staff and administrators and workers that are having to deal with elderly population of Monterey. I think there's a lot of interesting relationships because, we think we're old, but we don't feel old sometimes, but then sometimes the mind goes before. So if you are a young, yeah, but we really do. I mean, this is a different kind of town to be administrating.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people. Yeah. Yeah. That were our age when we first moved here. Yeah. They're the teenagers. Oh, great. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, cool. Yay. Thank you all so much.
So you will be here January, but you're expired.
Well, hopefully I won't expire at the end.